Almost.
Yeah, almost?
Almost done.
Okay, one. TESS feels going to,
Lahshem.
We're going to basket after this.
Oh, yeah? All
Not the
things
stack.
one, you have a favorite?
Have you tried that stack, please?
We were there last night.
No, you were. You went to, did you say Mishaberach for the ice cream lady? My wife told me you had a.
Oh, right. That's the wife over there.
You know what I would do if I were her?
She's gonna have to shut down.
No, she should be doing with
With
portable. There is a way. There is a way, but
we're the only ones there.
it was packed. He was packed.
Who? We were the only ones there.
By who? By inside
Okay.
staff? By staff.
When we left, there was
you tell me when we're ready, and Bezos Hashem Siyata D'Shmaya. Mom's the last minute.
10%
I
off
just
stack.
hope.
If you come and buy by scoop, that's what I would do. No, she's from Montreal. She's got.
Imagine how much he could have prepared if he wasn't.
Yeah, yeah.
He had books.
But
I try to, you know,
Which one?
compact them into a page.
It's from Baltimore.
Yeah, that's right.
Stuff our
She
collection.
brings in. Yeah, that's why. Oh, okay.
It's part of the farm. It's 10.
No, but the soft ice cream is also better than
Chaim. Yeah, I'm going to announce.
Let's go.
This is the last sale mod of this man.
Wow. Till El?
Till Elul, Mirz Hashem.
El is around the corner.
Happy travels. We normally, sometimes we'll push it. We'll have
You have
a
to take
tuba.
the Salem out with you wherever you go.
That's,
Right, we take the
point.
Tzeh ulmad, right.
Don't say goodbye, but Yashikar to Rabbi Yossi Philip Hakohen, who stepped up. I wanted to have for Shoal, who's again to have for this. It's obviously this is we always kibitz a little bit that Shoal is somehow happy and misery together on Tisha B'Av. The one week that he stays and he sings is the Shabbos before Tisha B'Av. He sings Al Maris Bava with a lot of. Yeah, I will. No, this is the fun. Everybody likes
is
the
it,
intro.
the
This is like the opening
Right.
monologue.
Nobody likes as much
But
as
I
you.
have to tell you one thing about Shoal's mother. The rabbi mentions that the food that he got. I also remember the swirl cookies that I got. She was an excellent cook, and that's why I think the kugel came out excellent this week. Was in her schus and the schus of Rabbi Yossi. Thank you very much. Okay, go ahead.
Chaim L'bracha, Chaim L'bracha.
Okay.
Okay, nicht schlecht.
Wow.
It's Parshas Devarim, Shabbos Chazoin. The Magen Avram. I just started with Halacha, and then we'll just we'll follow the path Bez Hashem. The Magen Avram tells us in Simon Tov Kuf Nun Daled. The Magen Avram says in Sifchat and TESS, he says, "Nehagois k'tzas." There's a minhag Nehagois k'tzas yoldus. Those who give birth, women who give birth, limnoya mibasa b'yayin, to withhold from eating basa and yayin mizayin ba'av. Today is Zayin Ba'av. Tonight is Zayin Ba'av. So meaning up until Zayin Ba'av, for those who need to eat basa v'yayin, I mean they can eat up until Zayin Ba'av. Zayin Ba'av ve'elech, they stop, and the reason is because v'nochayin zoktem Rama, it's correct. Sheba'oisay hayoyim nichnesu ha'akim lehechol, as is brought down the Gemara. I mean the Torah brings us down. So from today on, it's like the intensity started from Zayin up. Speaking about the intensity, this is exactly where we want to bring this intensity and combine it with this idea of TESS Ba'av, which as well, the Gemara tells us, Masechta Sanhedrin, Daf Tzadik Zayin, Gemara brings a Maasov with Rabbi Zera, that he met Talmidei Chachamim, occupied in trying to figure out the Keitz HaMashiach, when exactly Mashiach is coming. So he told him, I beg of you, I beg of you. He says, Loi tarachaku, don't distance him. Don't distance the Mashiach from coming, because through your cheshbonis, right, from those who are oisik, b'chishuv akates, right, and as the Gemara tells us, is shloisha devarim boyim behes chadas, as he brings down, Rabbi Zeh says, kshein choshvim aleim, when you don't think about them. Number one is Mashiach, the second one is Metzia, second one is like you find an object, again, you don't expect to find an object. And the last one is interesting, Akrav. Akrav is a scorpion. L'chein, therefore, says the Gemara, Mutav shloi l'sasek bin yonei Mashiach, not to occupy yourself with the onions, but l'siach asadas mimenu, to be Mashiach das. So this idea that there's a time of Indian of Hesach Hadas. Now it doesn't mean like I said, we create a Hesach Hadas. It should come through Hesach Hadas. We today live in a world, especially if you go to the Catskills, we're Mekayim to make sure to forget about it, completely, to be Mesiach Das. So to go all the way to make sure to be Mesiach. But that's not the Kavanah. The Kavanah is we should not, implement ways how to forget about it, or it should be distance from us. But it's interesting, the Marsha brings down, specifically says that Shloshim Boin, on this Gemara, he says the idea is if one is Zoicha, if it was Zoicha to be a Mashiach, then it will come in a Hesach Hadas. That's what it will come, Hesach Hadas. As the Rebbitzin of the Noid of Yehuda asked the Noid of Yehuda, he says, how exactly is Mashiach going to come? So he says, exactly the way it's now. You'll be occupied in the kitchen, be busy, whatever you're doing. I'll be preparing whatever I have to prepare my share, and suddenly it will come. That's how it's going to come. That's the idea of Hesach Hadas, b'mitzia. I mean, in a way where you're going to be excited about it. Oh, wow, I found something. But loy zocha zok the Marshav, when not zocha, then Bias HaMashiach will come, unfortunately, Hesach Hadas, like an akrav, like a sting, like, oi. We gotta leave already, you're not ready. You're not ready. I'm not ready yet. Which is not now. So that's the Marsha says that. It means there will be a sting. It will be something which is painful, so to speak. And the Ben Yehoyada says something very interesting. Ben Yehoyada brings down always in his always eloquent way that he always brings a remez. A remez, as we find in Tehillim. He says a pasuk in Tehillim. We find it says. Harimoisi bocher mayam. It's a pasuk in Peites, in capital Peites. Harimoisi means I've chosen. Harimoisi bocher, the chosen one, which is David HaMelech. Mayam are the Rosh Tevis of Mashiach, Melech HaMashiach. Ayin is the Akrav, and Mem is the Metzia. So he says, I'll choose the David HaMelech, May, from the Melech HaMashiach, when? Either through the choice of an Akrav, or through Metzia. That's how he brings the remes. That's how Ben Yehoyada says, beautiful, he brings through Metzia. That's up to us, if we're Zoicha or not Zoicha. But it's interesting, we're talking about the Akrav, always, my mind leads us to the next thing, which we find something very interesting, which brings us to our days as well, which in Perek Shira.
Just to find out about the Metzia, sorry. The Metzia is also a pisoim?
Oh, also, yeah. Your work, it doesn't have to, very interesting. So that's when, not always like that. Sometimes sometimes at least you don't take your mind off from it. But again, the Metzia is, I wasn't expecting it. That's real. You were excited about it. There's an excitement. You're kusher, you found, right. So that's the idea. But it's interesting, if we look at Perek Shira, it says over there, which of the Shrotzim, what's everyone has a shira, right? Every Baal Chai has a shira. So it says Akrav. What does the scorpion say? We're speaking about the Akrav. What does the scorpion say? It says Lahshem Lakol vrachamauv maasov. That is his pasuk. His pasuk is Lahshem Lakol maasov. That's the idea which we find of on this pasuk. And let's just elaborate a little bit on this idea, on this pasuk on Lahshem Lakol vrachamauv maasov, on this Akrav, which is, again, how are we going to be zoicha to this coming of the building of the Bias HaMashiach and the Binya Bayis HaShlishi? So the Gemara in Bava Kama in Daf Nun Hey says, Omer Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua says, someone sees a TESS, a ois TESS b'chaloim, that says simin yofaloi. If he sees the ois TESS, my timer, because it says the chsiv toiv Hashem lakol v'rachamav v'kamaz. It's toiv. Right? The Gemara, maybe there's other TESS, right? It brings a list of or it says, it brings a pasuk in Eicha, to Masa b'Shuler, brings another pasuk, Tavu ba'aretz Sharel. There's many tests that is not good, but the Gemara says, no, hoil, u'pasach ba'akosav l'toiva. Since the first time it says the ois test in the Torah, which is what? Va'yara lekim esaor ki toiv. So toiv ain't toiv, that's ain't toiv ela or. So therefore, that since the first time it's mentioned toiv is good. And we'll get back to this idea. Again, they chose this other psukim from the Megillah. So the Megillah's Eicha. But it's interesting, going to the Megillah's Eicha, very fascinating Murdig of Marsha. Kedai to see the Marsha inside. But again, he says over here that if you look, the Megillah was written, right? You have 5 prokim, but really in essence, it was 3 psukim. It was 3 prokim. Perek Aleph, it was Perek Beis, and Perek Dalet, right? Perek Gimel was only written after Yoyakim, Melech Yoyakim burnt. It was right Shesoraf Yoyakim. He burnt the Megillas Eicha. Then Yirmiyahu Hanavi added another Perek, but it's interesting. Where did he put the Perek So we have Eicha Yoshva, that's Perik Aleph. Perik Beis is Eicha Yoiv. And the third Perik is Ani Gever. But really, in essence, it should have been the fourth Perik, Eicha Yuam. So, but why did Yirmiyahu stick in Perik Gimel in between Beis and Dalet? Why did he do that? It's the Marsha, and he says the Rashba asked this question. He basically it's a question. So he says, what's pshat? So he says, venderly, a very fascinating thing. It says like this. The first time we know that it's written, the way the Megillah Eicha is set up, it's set up on the Seder of Aleph base. All right, Aleph base, and Perik Gimel is 3 times Aleph base, right? So he says, if you look in the first time, it says TESS, the ois TESS in Aleph. It says, first time TESS, tu maasov b'shuleo, as it brings down, the Gemara brings down. The next time it says, means unfortunately, what happened to the Beis Hashem didn't seem it was good. The first Beis Hamikdash, second Beis Hamikdash, it says in the Perik Beis, tavush ba'oret shora. That's the second time, right? Then he paused, right? Because one would say, oh, listen, it's no good, so we're done. Zokt Yirmiyahu, he stuck it in right here to tell us, and he put in 3 times Seder of the Aleph. Each test is only good. But this is Toiva. It says he starts off over here. You find Toiv Hashem Lakoivav, Toiv Yochel, Toiv Lagever. All 3 tests that they show that Alts is good. That's meaning to say, and not only that, and from now on, Zokta, from now on, Tama Voynech. I mean, from now on, if after the second Beis Hamikdash, it's only going to be good. So therefore, he stuck it in between before the Perik Dalet to show that the Bayis Hashlishi is only going to be good. That's what he says.
What's the test in Perik Dalet?
Also, initially correct, but that's why he broke it up to say. It wasn't good. Correct. And in Perik Dalet as well. No, sorry, my mistake. Perik Dalet is good. So meaning to say, because Bayis Hashlishi is ain't good. So why did he? But he put it in here to say that. Oh, so says the Marsha. He says to teach us something very fascinating. As we're just going back to this, that even the first 2 that doesn't seem to be that it wasn't good. Even that was good. Even the first 2, meaning to say, and I'll explain what he means. So what does it mean? It wasn't good. So he explains over here. So listen to this. There's a Nachlas Yaakov written by Rabbi Yaakov Melissa. Rabbi Yaakov Melissa, we know, is the Sivas, the Chavez Das. So he writes something very fascinating. He says, he brings the Gemara. The Gemara tells us, Master, Achaba Avram Avinu, until Avram Avinu Kara Odain. What does this mean, Odain? So he says, Shenema Zavayomer, again, Hashem Elikim, but it's Adna, right? Adna Elikim, Bamo EIDAH Kirisheno. So he sees the first one. What does it mean? Explains Rabbi Yaakov Melissa, the Sivas expounders. And the TESS, he says, why doesn't he say Hashem Elikim? What's with this Adna? So he explains like this. Lafiyani is daiti. Says Rabbi Yaakov something again explains us how we'll understand the Marsha. Nira, he says Melvad that the Shemoira Sham that Adna Aleph Dalet, right, is an Adnus, meaning to say the Rebbeinu Shalom is the master world, but also it's Moira that the Rebbeinu Shalom is Noisen L'Rosha Kirishasai, and the Rebbeinu Shalom does din with everyone. Adna is also referred to as din, meaning to say everyone is judged accordingly. So therefore, and what did Avraham Avinu what was Avraham Avinu Machadish? Avraham Avinu was Machadish was that he says that the Rebbeinu Shalom is Noisen HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ba'atzmei Refuah. There is a refuah l'makayeh choshev, v'chayiv lavorach ala k'moy ala toiva, chayiv lavorach k'moy ala toiva. And sometimes the Rebbeinu Shalom does din v'yisurin is a matana toiva. That's the chiddush that Avraham is teaching us, that there sometimes the din that the Rebbeinu Shalom does for Klal Yisrael, that's matana toiva sheroitzel litain v'hema rachamim gedolim. In essence, it's rachamim gedolim. The nekuda, the essence of it is v'zeh hichal. That's what it means havaya. That's why we refer to yud kei vav kei is sometimes aleph daled nun. Why? Because sometimes the rachamim has to come through din. It has to come through that we have to, we have to clean up for certain things that that is necessary. That's what he says, Adna. So therefore, and that's why. So this is the chiddush of Zeh, says Rabbi Yaakov Melissa, Lo Lamadna, only from Avraham Avinu. Why? Because Avraham Avinu asked the Rebbeinu Shalom, which, as we're in these days as well, he's asking for Avtocha of Yerusha Eretz Yisrole. So he asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Bamo EIDAH Kirisheno. Says Rabbi Yaakov Melissa, EIDAH, we know, how will I know, right? No, EIDAH is a different type. She says, Nagoda, he says, Bepirushi la Hagoda, he says, EIDAH is Meloshin Yisurin. EIDAH is a new pshat. Mamo EIDAH, how will I know? I mean, not how I know. What kind of Yisurim? Eidah is Yisurim. And he brings a positive. Vayoida behem eshoiftim es anche sukkos. And says the Targum. Targum Yoni says the Tabar, and he destroyed. He broke. He brought upon them Yisurim. Behainu explains Rabbi Yaakov to show you Dea Shematona Toiv Kazu. The Hainu Yerushas Eretz Yisrole Ef Shebala Yisurim. It's as it says the Shloisha Matanas Toivs Nosna Kajbrokal Yisrael. V'lei Nosna Eideh Yisurim, and one of them is Eretz Yisrole. So what was the response of the Rabbi Shalom? The Rabbi Shalom's response was, he says, that's what it says. The Rabbi Shalom's response was that Hashem Elokim, Adna Elokim. That's how he said. That was Avraham Avinu. And not only that, we find something we say every Monday and Thursday by davening by Daniel. It says as well. It says B'har Panecha Mikdashcha Hashamim Laman Adna. It's Hashem, but it's Aleph Daled Nun. Explains. Listen to these words. Beautiful how it fits in with this. With now with the Chorban Abayis. He explains like this. V'har Panecha. How will the Rebbeinu Shalom lighten us up once again? His panim Al Mikdashcha Hashamim. On the destroyed, the desolate Beis Hashem, Al Mikdashcha says is Laman Hashem, Laman Hashem through Yisurin, Laman Hashem Al Mikdashcha Hashamim. Machmashiyitin, he says that's Shevach that we thank the Rebbeinu Shalom on the Yisurin that the Rebbeinu Shalom gives Laman Adna Aleph Daled Nun, which is through Din. That's how we are zoicha to the Bayis Hashlishi. Because why? Because we know that Rebbeinu Shalom only shafach hamasoi al eitzim v'lavanim. So that is in essence. The din is a rachmim gedolim. So that's what the Marsha is telling us. That the reason Yirmiyahu put it in, stuck it in right here, although it's not good. But this was a rachmim here. In essence, there lies in the TESS, as it says, he brings down, that in the TESS, the way that the ois TESS is in Ksavashur is pointed inwards. Tuvayu gonzu begavayu. The toiv of it is concealed within the ois itself, and he says that's what the idea of these yomim of the 9 days. And it's interesting. What do we call it? The non-teg. Why 9 days? Yes. Tess for toiv. The tess for toiv to tell us that in these days licht guilt. There lies goodness in this. In the 9 days, in the test, don't let me constantly remind yourself. In the 9 days, that's what you remind yourself in the deva. And that's why, as we say also, another beautiful thing. We know that we just mentioned that the first pasuk that it says in the Torah is Vayar Elikim ki toiv, right? Toiv. So we know the test is toiv. What's the last pasuk of the Tanakh? Is the Megillah. In the Megillah, it was also is the last pasuk that we have the ois tess in Tanakh is Doirish Toiv La'amoy. Meaning, although we had here a whole episode from beginning to end, and that's throughout the entire history, from Sheshes Mebreshis, or throughout every single episode, whether it should be the Megillah, that it doesn't seems to be Din and Yisurim, but from the beginning to end, in essence, it's Toiv. There's a toiv, there's something is hidden goodness. And that's why the Oyev Yisrael, the Aptarov, mentions the Parshas Pinchas. He says also, as we know, within Parshas Pinchas in the time of the Bein HaMetzorim, he says the same thing. It says that a person should Soim Seichel. He says that these Chof Alav Yoim, that is between Yud Zayim and Tamas, Letes Ba'av, are B'shorshi, right? Rooted in the Yomim Tovim. In essence, they're the shorish of the Yom Tovim. Why the Yom Tovim? Because he says, just like the Rebbeinu Shalom, what did the Rebbeinu Shalom do? Vayar Elikim ki toiv. The Rebbeinu Shalom says he saw that it's loyroi, that won't be fit, right, for our generation, for this world. So what the Rebbeinu Shalom gonzo la tzadikim asalavai, but zakt oyev Yisrael. But he not only did gonzo la tzadikim asalavai, he concealed it in every yontif. There's a little bit of a nitzitz of the toiv, of this goodness of Yomos HaMashiach. There's a goodness of this toiv, this or licked in the Yom Tovim as well. So he says, therefore, these Chaf Alav Yom Keneged, these the Yom Ansar, but in essence, the way we understand it is the way he says it as well. He writes, the pshat is, it's not just Keneged. He says it's more than that. Adain onu royin lahem betuvayu gonus begavayu. He uses the same lashon. The toiv is gonus, is concealed in these days, every single day of the Yemei Ben Ansarim, of these 9 days. Lichten an oragonus, a goodness, something that the Rebbeinu Shalom, and it's a rachmim gedolim. There's a rachmim gedolim. That's what we have to go through. This is the reason we go through these days, particularly these days, is to be mechaper at least. That's the idea. So we should be zoichet rachmim gedolim. But this is all in Yemei Av Rachman. It's in Yemei Av. It's interesting. It says that It's brought down that really the shirish of Aryeh, right? Because what's the muzzle of his Aryeh is really is brought down in the Ksava Kabbalah brings it down is really Ora. Ora, Aryeh is Lashon Ora, Lashon of curse. But the Mensch Shalom Barachmim added this Yud, the Nekuda Yud. The Yud is Mamtik the Din. So really, in essence, Aleph in explains in the Mispar Cotton is Aleph Reish Hey is 8. Well, with that Yud, it makes it 9. Back to Toiv. That goodness, abyssal good. There should be in this should be also good. In these days is also good. So really, in essence, we're heading. We want to get out of these days. We want to get to Yud Gimel Midas Sharachman. In essence, the Yud Gimel Sharachman is fascinating, which Rabbeinu Bechai brings Barshas Kisisa, and he says, "V'da, you should know that the Hashem Ken Lo Rachmin." This is Adna. So Avram Avinu introduced, if we want to be Zocheh to Eretz Yisrole, we want to be Zocheh to whatever it is, we have to go through a certain din rachmim, right? A din with rachmim. But in essence, the Rebbeinu Shalom is Hashem. Zocheh Rabbeinu B'chai like this. Medah, you should know that the Shem Rishon is Etzem. That is a reference to Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Kaviyach Dor Rebbeinu Shalom. But v'lo midah, it's not an attribute. He says Hashem. That's a midah. And what's that midah? That's a midah sarachmim. And what is the definition of midah sarachmim? Zocheh Rabbeinu B'chai. Midah sarachmim is a midah beloy tshuva. Medarftish kan tshuva, beloy she'ela, without beloy ke'ev, elo ka'ov rachaman. No, like an ov rachman shu merachim al benoi, but yodeya mashu tzorich v'noisen loy belish yishal, without even asking anything. V'chein hu yisala merachim hu ala rosha, he's merachim on the rosha. Afilu beloy tshuva, even without tshuva, she can kosov. It says, as it says in the pasuk, vrachamauv kol maasov. So the toiv Hashem where is now. That's the toiv. We need the toiv to value. Is igonus begavayu. But then comes the second, the ladder of the pasuk, which is vrachamauv al maasov. Where we're zoicha to understand the derech of Hashem and to internalize it. Then was zoicha to rachamim believable. Believe there's a beloy tshuva, even beloy tshuva. He says vrachamauv al maasov afilo ala akum. He says even ala akum. That's why it says, where do we find something like this? We take the day, the day that we mourn most, the destructive day of Klal Yisrael. And what do we do on that day? On Allah it says, there's no tachnan. No slichas, no tachna, but what's this? Mamach says a yontif. What's it the yontif? Weiter, what's the yontif? But in essence, this is the yontif. The yontif is as we understand the toiv that's concealed within this, in our relationship to the Rebbeinu Shalom and Klal Yisrael, then it's a moyed. Then brings us to the next level of vrachamauv kol maasov. So this is the idea which is we have in these days. And to conclude with the Barditcheva, the Elige Barditcheva says, Rebbeinu Shalom, he says, what do you need to build the third Beis Hamikdash? You need barzel, you need iron, you need stone, and you need water. We have plenty of all that. He says, look at Klal Yisrael. All these generations of Klal Yisrael, the iron, how the ironclad, how firm they stood. Although with all the challenges you threw against Klal Yisrael, we're still here. So I always say, you see Yidden seeing, learning, growing. That all comes from that barzel, from that iron, stern heart that we have, that the desire and that will that we're not giving, we're ready to give up. And then he says, unfortunately, look at those of the soft-hearted people that Nebuch turned into stone. That Nebuch they couldn't hold on, but they became a leva even. We have plenty of that as well. Plenty of the leva even Nebuch Rachmana litzlan of that as well. And then who's talking about the mayim, the shivchi. Kamayim libech. Wifel Yidden was ausgeweiht all these years. And we asked our Rebbeinu Shalom, you know what? It's a shengenik. Ad kan. So we should be zoicha b'es Hashem to recognize, after all, it's rachamim, the good that's concealed, and be zoicha b'es Hashem to rachamim gedolim b'mheira b'yameinu yashekoya.
Beautiful. Wow. Beautiful.
Okay.
Imagine if you had time to. Imagine if you had time to.
The first two are also good.
I mean, in essence.
Shkoyach Rabbi Yossi.
Who's giving him shkoyach?
Shkoyach Rabbi Yossi. It's gewesen sehr toiv. It's gewesen sehr toiv. Test me toiv. Your nephew will say it over Mishum Shabbos. Your nephew will be able to say over on Shabbos. It's a head from the fetter.
Oh, you had to again. Very nice. Shkoyach. Thank you so much. Yeah. L'chaim v'lebrocha.
No, he's here.
What do you mean his nephew?
His son. He was called him on the phone.
Oh, I know who he's talking
No.
about.
Oh, I can
I
imagine.
was trying to figure out how he's connected here.
Why, he's on Zoom?
He didn't come on Zoom. He doesn't have internet.
Oh, no? Guys,
He called him on the phone.
Okay.
Someone told me he doesn't know over there.